introducing Scott Smith from Oregon. So Scott, he is a collaborator. He's sitting the juncture of strategy and execution. He's a motivational listener, speaker, coach, mentor. He inspires and motivates you. He's the author of Influence, Creation of Credibility, published a book, course, and webinar in 12 weeks. Relationships Grow Your Business, a method and process for networking. Motivational listener, be interested in being interesting. Skills to be successful at business networking events. He's published the Independent Planner, which is a goal tracking system specifically made for the solo entrepreneur. Scott has worked in large and small companies. He's been in the role of CEO, COO, and general manager. He's lived and breathed the financial services, agriculture, and manufacturing spaces. And broadcasts for Scott that he's done, Virtual Global Tea Break, The Experience Live with Russ and Scott, Business Builder Throwdown, the Pre-Act Your Age podcast. That's going to be an interesting one. And he does author interviews. He's celebrating his 38th wedding anniversary as of this year. So congratulations. And Scott, I'm going to. Oh yeah. He also plays the bass or guitars, bass guitars. That's it. I'm thinking, my guy, he plays a fish. Oh no, that's the wrong answer. Scott, I'm going to hand it over to you. Thank you.
All right. Well, this is great and good to see y'all. And I love that many of you are authors or aspiring authors. And so I want you to publish your book, online course, webinar in 12 weeks or less. And because I don't want you to wait and I don't want to get disconnected and have you lose the information, I want to tell you exactly what to do right up front. For those of you that have not published but are wanting to publish, or you had someone else publish for you, go to kdp.amazon.com. That's Kindle Direct Publishing, kdp.amazon.com. Set up your account, download the Kindle Create program. Take your book from a Word document, upload it into the Kindle Create where you can format it. You add a cover, you hit publish. In a couple hours, Amazon's going to send you a message that says, congratulations, your book is now available to be purchased. So that's it. That's all it takes to publish a book. And so thank you, Margaret, Ann, and Bernie, for giving me the opportunity to share with you. And I'll take questions. Well, maybe we'll do a few more points first. So actually, I published my first book in 2018. It was hard. It took me a long time. I had to negotiate all the aspects. I had to learn by doing, and it was a pain in the tuchus. But as you can imagine, after you've done it once, the second, third, and fourth books were much easier. In fact, and then we used this same process that I'm sharing with you today to co-author another book with Holly Jean Jackson. She's in North Carolina, and Matt Rouse, he's in Nova Scotia. So the three of us collaborated and published a book in less than 2 months. So the process is easy once you get started. We can talk about being an author, but you want to talk about also why you want to be a published author. So those of you that have yet to be published, want to be published, let's talk about Simon Sinek. And many of you know Simon. He had a great idea. As he says, it was born out of pain. And quoting Simon, he says, I had lost my passion for my work, which was disconcerting to say the least. Learning about starting with why changed all that. I knew I had to share it with as many people as I could and talk about it with whomever would listen. Now, Simon Sinek was an advertising dude. He was working at Ogilvy and Mather, but he had lost his passion. But in his passion, he described the golden circle. I don't know how many times I have diagrammed that for people, but it was dead simple. And we watched him on screen on his TED Talk. But so he could have stopped with this idea. He wanted to share it with as many people as possible. He could have looked for podcast bookings and share with many people. He could have written an article, posted it on Medium. He could have even taken Start With Why and written an ebook, given it away on his website in exchange for an email, and added you to his list. But what he did is he wrote and published a book in 2009. Then in 2010, he gave that very famous TEDx talk in Puget Sound. And for him, it has been a marvelous ride, writing more books, giving talks, consulting gigs, all because he took that step and published. Because you see, experts have published materials, and authors are experts. Books showcase your expertise and position you as the thought leader. And as a coach and a consultant, we all want to make a difference. And many times when I give talks, I end it with the same slide that was a phrase that was inspired by my mother that says, it's not about making money. It's about living a life that makes a difference. Now, it is a troubled world out there. Those people have problems, and these are problems that you solve. But how do they know who you are? You've worked hard to know what you know and to be able to provide the solutions to complicated problems as easily as you exhale. Because when we learn, we work in our prefrontal cortex. This is where we have short-term memory, and where learning takes place takes a lot of energy. And so when you sit in that seminar for all day and you're learning, you're using your prefrontal cortex, then you get to the end of the day and you're physically beat, although you say, I've been sitting on my butt all day. How can I be tired? It's because you're using the prefrontal cortex, and you're burning off all the glucose in your blood, so you're worn out. But as we repeat tasks, we form new neural pathways in our brain. It moves from the prefrontal cortex to the basal ganglia. And so it's easily recalled. It's a very low energy part of the brain. And so when somebody asks you a question about your area of expertise, you don't need to Google it up. You don't need to go to reference materials. You can just like breathe out the answers, right? And it's almost as if you feel like it was common knowledge because it's physically a part of who you are. But what you know is not common. You've spent time in your field of expertise. You've synthesized novel solutions, methods, and processes. You are unique, exceptional, and remarkable. What you have to offer is not available anywhere else in the universe. The Bible tells us that you don't take a lamp and hide it under a basket. You put it on the table and let it give light to everybody. So when you are a published author, you have greater credibility, and with greater credibility comes increased influence. And with influence, you can have a greater impact. So you are now living a life that makes a difference. So experts have published material. So let's listen to this for a moment. We say our next speaker has an ebook available on his website. I mean, that's okay. But what we want to hear is our next speaker is the author of Influence, Creation of Credibility, which is available on Amazon. See, that is much more powerful. Same material, but positioned different. So you may be like me. So some of you have written already and published. Others of you have not, but they want to. Like Margaret Ann, they've got a book in process. All right. So not only did I want to write a book, but I wanted to actually get it published. And back in the day, I dreamed of some publishing house, Random House, sending me that check in advance, right, on royalties. But the world has changed, and I will say it has changed for the better. Right now, there are too many authors for the publishing houses to talk to them directly. They will only talk to agents. So if you want to write a book, you have to get a literary agent if you want to go the traditional publishing route. And it's going to take you about a year to find an agent to represent you. Then they're going to go out and probably take about a year, and these are average numbers, take about a year to find a publisher who's interested in your book. Once they have that, it's going to take about 2 years for your book to be ready to be published with all the iterations of back and forth. So now we're looking at 4 years to get your book, your information out. And the publishing house, by the way, is going to ask you how big is your community, the tribe, the following that you have because you get to do the marketing for your book and you get to pay all the expenses. So travel expenses and so forth. They may get you set up for a book signing, but you got to pay to get there, hotel, snacks, and all that stuff. So it's up to you. So if you have an idea that will help people, because remember, those people have problems and they're looking for solutions, don't make them wait. When I graduated from college, there was a term called self-publishing that had come out in 1979. And at the time, it was, I will say unfairly and unkindly, referred to as vanity publishing. So self-publishing was called vanity publishing. And an author would take the book, send it off to a printer, get like 5,000 copies made, store them in the garage, and then try to sell them out of the back of their car, or wherever they would go, right? So traditional publishing was too slow. And today it's all about time to market. So I used to work at Hewlett Packard, and one of the last projects that I worked on there was this ultra high-end video conferencing. We called it Halo Studios. It was built in cooperation with DreamWorks. And DreamWorks is really good about making 2D things look better than they should. So it was a great marriage between the technology and the knowledge of video that DreamWorks had. So we built these conference studios, and we put them in businesses around the world. By the way, the cost for one of those rooms was $1 million per room. In every room, you had to pay a $35,000 a month hookup fee. So the first client that we had for this first rooms that we sold 3 rooms to Coca-Cola. They put one in Atlanta, one in Chicago, one in New York. And it wasn't because they didn't want their employees traveling or paying expenses, or that they wanted them to sleep in their own beds or watch their kids' soccer games. It was all about time to market. So with video conferencing, and we're all much more familiar with it today, this was back in 2005 when we were doing these Halo studios. It was all about time to market. They could iterate faster on product development and get it to market quicker. And they told us that if they could get a new product, a new beverage to market on the shelves 6 months before PepsiCo, it could be worth billions of dollars. So it was worth spending $3 million to get the rooms and $105,000 a month. But now we all do that for free, thanks to Zoom. Dr. Wes Roberts, he had an idea about leadership. He was repeatedly turned down by publishers. So he decided to self-publish his book, which was Leadership Secrets of Attila the Hun. It's still a top seller. He published the book, self-published the book, stored them in his garage, started selling them and giving away. It ended up being a hit in the automotive industry, thanks to Ross Perot, who bought thousands of the books and gave them out. You can read more about his story online, but it was a huge success. And a publisher decided then, after everyone had turned him down, it was like 77 times he had been turned down. He finally got a publishing deal. But he didn't let the publishers, Dr. Wes Roberts did not let the publisher tell him that his idea was no good and that it would not sell. He persevered. He knew, the same as you, that he had a novel perspective, that he had synthesized a unique way to teach leadership. So just like Dr. Wes Roberts, you are unique, exceptional, and remarkable. What you have to offer is not available anywhere else in the universe. So don't keep what you have to offer hidden. Publish. So another reason that traditional publishers have not been interested in some books is because they are too small. These publishers believe that size matters. And it did when all the books were for sale as physical copies and on the shelves at stores. So a thin-spined book could get overlooked. You wanted a wide spine. You wanted that 250 pages, so it would get noticed on the shelf at Borders or Barnes & Noble. But today, Amazon is the world's largest reseller of books. And everyone, it's also the largest place where people are with problems are looking for products to solve that pain that they have, right? And so it is a troubled world out there. Those people have problems. They are going to Amazon to find solutions. So the other interesting thing about Amazon is that every book is the same size. It doesn't matter whether it's a fat book or a thin book, it's the cover that they're going to see. So huge or tiny, it's the same on the Amazon page. So here's the deal. You may be like me and you have a lot of business books on the shelves. Many of them you have not read, and those that you have read, like me, you haven't implemented all this stuff in there. There's good things, but you haven't implemented it, right? So we've got books, we don't read them, and we don't implement them. But people with problems are looking for a specific solution. They don't really care about all the fluff that was put into a book to give it a spine of notable size, right? So they want to know what they need to know, and that's it. They want something they can read, maybe even in one sitting, and actually implement it. So what I'm really promoting here is short form content and getting it out in 90 days. And as I mentioned, we want you to publish a book, online course, and webinar in 12 weeks or less, in 90 days. So you have let's just say right now, you have information on how businesses can survive in an inflationary time. This is where we're at, right? So prices are going up. It's a challenge for businesses. Let's say you have something that will help them. If you go through the traditional publishing method, in 4 years, they can read about how to deal with inflation in their business. But if you follow a process, you can get a book to them this fall on how to deal with inflation, right? So we're talking about short form publishing, 20 to 40 pages that defines one problem and provides one solution, a book that can be read in one sitting, and something that can be implemented right away. So a book of 20 to 40 pages is, if you are an expert, and you're an expert in your area, define a problem, you can give a talk about that for, say, 40 to 60 minutes. That's a 20 to 40 page book, depending on how fast you talk. And I don't know. Anyway, you're talking about what you can give in one presentation is the perfect size book. So short form publishing, you might wonder, look, Scott, short form publishing is really a 20-page book, 30-page book going to sell. So again, it's not about making money. It's about living a life that makes a difference. And what's really cool is when the two of those come together. So just north of me, so I live in Oregon, and just in South Washington, north of Portland and Vancouver, Washington is where Barbara Carnes lives. She's a registered nurse, and she's actually an expert in hospice, so end-of-life care. And as a registered nurse, she noticed that many of the families were experiencing emotions and the processes the same. And so she realized that she could either help families working one-to-one, or she could work one-to-many by publishing a book. So in 1985, she published a book called Gone From My Sight, dealing with end of life. 15 pages. That book changed the hospice industry. And it has sold over 35 million copies since 1985. So right now, that's selling about 80,000 copies a month. You can find it on Amazon. It solves one problem. And if you buy her book, it's $7.99, 15 pages. She has a lot of other books. They are actually, most of them are under 30 pages. So you want to have an impact. You want to live a life that makes a difference. Like Barbara, she changed an industry with 15 pages. So what you do, kdp.amazon.com, download the Kindle Create program, upload your book so you can format it, add a cover, hit publish. I actually have a free course. It's a series of emails that walk you through the process, gives you the outline that you need that will work. And it's perfect for the DIY folks. I also have a paid mastermind for folks that want peer mentoring. We help each other out. It's available on my website. And you can go to Amazon and get my book, Influence, Creation of Credibility, the method and process to publish a book, online course, webinar in 12 weeks or less. I have a podcast called Publish Your Book because I wanted it to be descriptive. And it's also on Spotify, Apple, Amazon, all those places you find podcasts. I put new episodes out every Monday at 7 a.m. Those episodes, by the way, 5 to 10 minutes. So if it takes you longer to fall asleep, you can take those episodes and gang them up, and then you can drift off listening to the podcast. Remember, experts have published material. It is a troubled world out there. And people have problems, and they're looking to you to solve them. They want to find your book on Amazon. You have worked hard to know what you know. You've synthesized diverse perspectives, created novel solutions. You are unique, exceptional, and remarkable. What you have to offer is not available anywhere else in the universe. So I want you to publish your book in 12 weeks.